You've probably realised I've been thinking a lot about communication and connection at the moment. What caught my attention today was a little bit about what I experienced in my past, how I bring that to the conversations that I'm having and how they affect how I experience other people and how their experiences affect how they experience me. I've been looking a little bit at shadow and projection today, for some of you know that. I'd be interested to see what you think about it. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Anaïs Nin. Some of you would have picked up that what's on my mind a lot at the moment is really one of the four kind of pillars of what I think kind of helps me stay well, which is connection, challenge, contribution, celebration. And I'm largely been thinking a lot this week around connection. Specifically around how I communicate with people and how that creates connection, how I create connection, and also around how I maintain that kind of connection with people, and the roles that communication play in that. One of the bits that's got my attention today around that is really around my self-awareness. That's how I put it. So, and what I mean by that is how much of me comes to every interaction I'm having with people or a person, and how much of me is the bit that can sometimes get in the way between me getting the connection that I want, and also how much of me plays a role in me on how I perceive the communication or the person I'm interacting with. And so thinking on of that really a little bit, what I'm going to be talking about now is really around what role does my past experiences and the beliefs that have been shaped by those shape how I'm perceiving reality as it happens now. So in other words, how does my past experience, how do my beliefs affect how I may be interacting with another person, or even how I may be seeing them? So the Anaïs Nin quote, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. So I don't see the world as it is, I see it as I am. So a very basic way of looking at that is just like for emotions. So if I'm angry and I meet you, you're going to have a very different experience of me. But more importantly, I'm going to have a very different experience of you because I'm angry than if I were to meet you and I was joyful, for example. That's on a very basic level. But how does my past experiences and how do the things that I've been taught from my past beliefs, so my experiences and my beliefs, shape how I interact with someone now? So Jung talks a lot about shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, repress, deny. That bit of us that we can't see, that is really kind of driving the show. And what he really means by that is kind of a belief, in a way. So the things we learn when we're young, the things that happen to us when we're young, they create what Jung calls a shadow. They create a belief. And he calls it shadow because often we don't see it. It's so far in the background, it's so deep in our subconscious that we don't see it anymore. And because we don't see it, we can't challenge it. So on some level, we perceive it as the truth, even though cognitively we may not believe that's the truth. So let's give an example. So you're young, right? 4 or 5 years old. And you go to school and you get bullied, right? And the boys that bully you are all very sporty. You know, they're like, let's go a bit older. You're a bit older than that. You're getting bullied at school, and you're getting bullied at school by the sporty kids, right? They're all good at football, and they behave in that way that comes with the confidence of being good at sport at that age and the popularity that comes with it. And they bully you. And what you'd learn on some level is that sporty kids are dangerous. As you grow up, that goes in the distance, right? So that's shown up in a couple of ways. One, you may have distanced yourself from sport, and you may now have a distrust of sporty guys, right? So you take that forward to one day you're sitting on a train and a bunch of football boys get on with all their kit and they're being a bit boisterous and having fun. You may feel fear. Now, those particular humans have not done anything to you or anything to affect your behaviour or anything to make you make judgments about them. But on some level, you may believe they're dangerous. And that will manifest in you seeing every nuance they do as aggressive. So you may experience them as aggressive. And that may not be the truth. It may be this shadow belief driving the show from years and years and years ago, and you're not even aware of it. Right, so why do I say this? So I say this as when I'm meeting someone, when I'm trying to create connection with that person, when I'm trying to communicate effectively with that person, it serves me well to think about what are the stories I'm making up about that person and where might they come from, and not assuming they're the truth. Because these shadows, these things I've learned, may not be the truth. And actually, like, they're not even just come from my experience of what someone taught me. They're often cultural shadows. There's often these cultural shadows which I cast on other people. Maybe I think a particular group of people are one way. You know, stereotypes. It's a perfect example of a cultural shadow that we create and we put on a group of people. I put on a group of people. On a cognitive level, I can walk around going, oh yeah, man, like I don't think these things, I do things, but that stuff's deep ingrained. So I've got to watch out that it's not driving the show. And the way I look at it is not by denying it and going, oh yeah, man, I'm all good with everyone. It's to look at actually what's the thing that's coming up in my head. If you're looking for a good workshop on multiculturalism, NCBI, they do a workshop, and there's a process where you look at the first thoughts you have around people different to you. It's very telling when you're honest what comes out, and everyone does it across the board. We all make up stories about other people. It's naive to believe that we don't. What's not naive is to bring them out and to look at them and go, that doesn't serve me. I'm going to react and work against it. Try and push against it. So these cultural shadows, my shadows, past experiences, all of this baggage, this bag of shadows, Jung talks about a bag of shadows that we drag with us. They can affect how I see you when I talk to you. Right? So that self-awareness of what are my wounds, what are the beliefs that don't serve me anymore, what are the judgments I make up about people that don't serve me anymore. When I'm aware of those, when I'm self-aware about those things and what might be driving my behaviour, I can get to create connection with you easier because I can free you from them. And that's what Jung talks about when he calls projection. These shadows, these beliefs that I can't see, I lay them everywhere I go. So I meet you, and my beliefs about the world fall on you. And what I need, the second part of that self-awareness, there's kind of three parts to this self-awareness, is the first part is knowing myself and what I bring. The second part is becoming aware of how that may affect you, how I may lay that upon you, how I may project that upon you. So when I'm aware of it, that I'm projecting my past, my experiences, my shadows on you, I can start to free you from them. And when I take ownership of them, then I can start to see you more clearly. Okay, so that's kind of the second part. And to break it into real terms, to break it into understandable terms, what that means is I've got to recognize I bring a whole load of me into every interaction I have. And it may not be the truth. I may experience it as the truth. It may not be the truth. And whoever I meet, I make up a whole bunch of stories about them. And that may not be the truth. It's just the stories that I make up based on how I experience the world. So what's the third part? So the third part is I need to be aware of how that happens in reverse. I need to be aware of how I may land on other people, right? So that brings forgiveness when I realize that they might not be seeing me the way I want to be seen. So let's make that real. So when I'm in England, right, for example, I'm a Cockney, right? I'm from East London. And, you don't have to look far. Watch any program you want to see. I've got a challenge for you. Go and see any program you want to see. And you watch for the criminals. And criminals are always working class Londoners, Cockneys, normally, right? Always at Arthur Daly, kind of, right? We're always the thieves, right? We're always the criminals, but not the good ones. You watch your program, and the really successful ones, they're always upper class. They're always upper class and well spoken, and really clever ones. It's the foot soldiers, right? They're always Cockneys. So that's a cultural shadow, right? That we have in England. Cockneys are crooks. Right, that's a cultural shadow, and that gets cast on me when I'm in England. It gets cast on me often, right? So I'm aware of that. I'm aware that when I meet people, they're going to view me a certain way. They may view me a certain way. Right? I've got used to that. So when the first time I went to Northern Ireland, something different happened. I noticed a different way that I was being treated. I noticed that I was bringing up something different, right? And it wasn't that I was a crook, but I could tell there was a difference. And it took me a while to realise what that was. Actually, it was only when I was working with with a Northern Irish man, and we were talking on these subjects, that he made it very clear to me what it was. He said, during the Troubles, a lot of the squaddies who were brought over were working class boys from England. There was a lot of Cockneys sent there in the army. There's a lot of Cockney squaddies, and they ended up there. Right? So the cultural shadow about working class Londoners is very different in Northern Ireland based on their cultural history than it is in England based on our cultural history. Right, so I have to be aware of that. I have to be aware of how I may land. How I may land with you because of what I represent to you. Being an Englishman, having that awareness has been really valuable for me, because around the world, I might walk in and go, oh yeah, I'm Lawrence from London, that's great. But to a lot of people, I bring up that whole imperial wound in a lot of people. Right? It's potential. They look at me and they see English imperialism. You go to Scotland, you come up against that. I have to be aware when I go to Scotland what I may represent. Right? And that's not about making myself wrong. It's not about affecting how I behave. But it's just having an awareness around it. So remember those three things that I was talking about, really. There's that awareness of what I bring. Awareness of the baggage that I bring to every interaction I have with a group of people or with a person, right? And that may get in the way of me creating connection with them because of my own wounds, my own hotspots, my own triggers, my own wounds, right? I may bring that with me. Second point is I have to be aware of what I'm putting on you. So what are the stories I tell myself about other people that I'm trying to connect with, and how's that going to get in the way? What bit of that do I have to become aware of so I can let them go? I can take that projection off them and see them clearly. And then also, what am I bringing? What am I bringing? And how may that be perceived? And how can I, in a way, one, handle that? Just be able to hold that and be aware of that. And how can I maybe counteract it so that they can see me clearly? Because what doesn't work is when I try to think everyone's cool, right? I don't make up judgments about anyone. I'm really not non-judgmental and cool. I don't judge anyone. I don't see anyone differently from myself, and no one sees me differently. We're all just one. The world is just one, and it's all gravy, right? Because we know that's not true. Every single one of us is making up stories about everyone the whole time. We have to. It's how the brain works. The brain is a problem-solving machine. And everyone I meet, it's constantly going, who are they? Who do they remind me of? Am I safe? Are they dangerous? He looks tall, he reminds me of an old teacher. I didn't like that teacher, I'm not going to trust him. Thousands and thousands and thousands of permeations. We've got the most advanced problem-solving machine in this world, and we put our attention on people. And all the time, it's trying to do these huge, huge calculations of what does this mean to me? Am I safe? What do I need to do? The whole time in the background, right? It sounds exhausting, doesn't it? And it is, right? But that's what our brain is doing. And how we can help it come to conclusions that serve us is to make it more cognitive, right? And we're not always going to get it right, and we're going to make mistakes, but it's to catch it when you can. It's to catch it when you can. Right? If you're committed to making the world a better place, right? If you find yourself, if you're a man, right, and you're committed to making this world a better place, and you find yourself thinking a sexist thought, right, it pops up. Don't push it down and pretend you never had it. That's interesting. Where does that come from? Do I actually believe that? That may just be a message that you learned years ago off someone, and it's still playing around in your brain. Don't put it back in the pond. Don't stick it back in shadow. Pull it out and go, where's that come from? Do I actually believe that's true? It might be uncomfortable to think you even have them thoughts. But look at it. Is that true? Does that serve me? Is that the man I want to be? And if the answer is no, then try and find a way to counteract it. Try and find a new belief that you want to put in there. And to make that really real, try and do a new action that moves away from that. That proves you are not that type of man to yourself. Because this is all about us striving to be the man we want to be, really. This is what it's about for me. I try and do all of this stuff to show up in the world in the way that I want to be. Right? In the way that I would have been before society starts putting all this stuff on you when you're really young. Right? Look how much money is spent on telling men that they need control and they need power. Look how much money has been spent on that. And you think it's going to change overnight? No way. We have to look at the shadow. We have to look at the shadow of that. There's always talk about toxic masculinity. I just think toxic masculinity is just the shadow of masculinity. That's all it is. It's the dark side of it, if we want to go that way. And hopefully we're trying not to. But we're not going to get it by pretending we don't have it, by pretending we don't have that darkness. But we just have to help each other, hold each other to a higher standard and challenge it when it comes up, either in our minds or in reality. Challenge the behaviour, challenge the thought. So anyway, there's a whole different subject there I'm going to. Let's bring it back to this. When you're connecting with someone, when you're in a situation with other human beings, and you're trying to create connection, one of the most important things you can do whilst communicating with them is self-awareness. What am I bringing to this conversation? What's the story I'm telling myself about those people, and is it true? And what story might they be saying about me? And how do we get that all out of the way so we can come together? because that's ultimately what this is all about. It's so important for us all to just come together on a human level, just connect with each other and work it out and try and get it all out of the way. And good communication is central to that creating connection. And I speak for myself and saying I really, really, really want connection with other men, with other women, with other people different to me, as much as I can have, because that's when I thrive. One of the ways I thrive is through connection. So I have to keep awareness, and I have to keep communicating, and I keep having to know I will make mistakes, and knowing that I will have to fish in my darkness to find the light. And I think I'll leave it there. Hopefully that was useful. Let me know if you even watch this stuff. It'd be nice to know if anyone's out there. Speak to you soon. Take care.